Shabbat Shalom! Do you know what an if-then clause is? It's a statement that says, if this happens, then that will happen. For example, your parents might say something like, if you clean your room, then we can go to the park. And for you adults, if you don't pay your taxes, then the IRS will come for you. This week's Torah reading, Numbers 32, verses 20 to 25, has some if-then clauses. In this passage, Moses is speaking to the Gadites and Reubenites on behalf of God. The Gadites and Reubenites want to live in the land east of the Jordan, but the Lord requires them to help their fellow Israelites conquer the Promised Land. So Moses sets up an if-then clause, saying that if you arm yourselves for battle and fight for the land on the west side, then you can return to the east and settle where you would like. Now, what is interesting about this? The Gadites and Reubenites wanted to settle in the east rather than the west, which was not a part of God's original plan. However, they conversed with God and told him what their desires were. And in this case, God said, okay, and allowed them to live in the land they wanted. But God first requires them to help fight for the Promised Land. The Reubenites and Gadites had to commit to what God instructed them to do. By committing to God, they completed their plans under his guidance, which benefited all Israel. The Reubenites and Gadites conversed with God about their desires, committed to God's instructions, and completed their plans under God's guidance, which benefited the whole community. Let's answer some questions. Which of the following if-then clauses is true? A. If you converse with God about your desires, then he will always give you what you want. B. If you converse with God about your desires, then he will answer you, whether it is a yes, no, or not yet. C. If you converse with God about your desires, then he will laugh at you for being an idealist. The correct answer is B. Number 2. Which of the following if-then clauses is true? A. If you commit to God's instructions, then he will guide your path. B. If you commit to God's instructions, then you will become his favorite. Or C. If you commit to God's instructions, then he will always make everything go perfectly well. The correct answer is A. Which of the following if-then clauses is true? A. If you complete your plans under God's guidance, then he will always reward you with every worldly treasure possible. B. If you complete your plans under God's guidance, then you will get an A+ in the book of life. Or C. If you complete your plans under God's guidance, then he will go before you to fight. The correct answer is C. Now, let's see if you can apply this. Imagine you're in a class and you suddenly have an idea. You think your idea might be able to help improve the class, and you want to share it. What should you do first? First, you converse. Bring your idea to your class's teacher. Then you can both tell God what you would like and ask him to show you what to do. Once you have an answer from God, it's time to act. What should you do next? Yes, you commit to God's instructions. Commit to following his plan, even if it isn't your original idea. Commit to changing the class, or even keeping it the same. Now that you have committed to God's instructions, what should you do? Complete. Carefully use prayer and scripture to complete your plans under God's guidance. And if you follow his instructions, then the whole class will benefit from it. Sometimes it can be hard to follow God's instructions, but Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6, tells us to follow the Lord's desires, not our own. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. And Galatians 6, verse 9, encourages us not to give up. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest, if we do not give up. Shabbat Shalom!